I've been speaking to a lot of my slightly older female friends about their fertility struggle, and it's pretty heartbreaking. A lot of these women actually already have children, and they're still heartbroken because they might not be able to have as many children as they would have liked. And I think both sides get this issue really wrong. One side just copes about it, and the other side just memes about it, when it's really probably one of the most sensitive issues out there today. It's life changing and can be one of the most devastating and regretful things in a woman's life. So, if you are a woman and you do want kids, this is kind of a sobering video for that demographic, if you care to listen or if you're interested. If you're not someone who wants kids, then that's fine. You don't have to listen to this, and this video is not for you. Basically, I want to say that even if you've had kids, fertility after 35 is just a whole different ballgame. Obviously, there is huge variance from woman to woman, but you don't know what kind of woman you are in that regard. You don't know how fertile you will be after 35, no matter how many tests you do, no matter how good your lifestyle is. A lot of it is just genetic. So these are like unforeseen factors that a lot of women don't factor into their decision making. So many of my friends have had kids prior to 35, and then after 35, it's been a steep struggle to have more. I also do know women who've had kids in their 40s. And again, this just goes to my point about variance. So in my mind, why take the risk if you don't know if you can get pregnant after 35, after 40? Why take that risk? Because there's no undoing that. So I'll also touch on freezing embryos, eggs, and IVF quickly. I'm not going to talk about it from the moral perspective. That would be a totally different topic and video. But I do want to touch on the fact that a lot of these services, they want your money, and they are services, and their success rate, I'm going to safely assume, is over-exaggerated, and their fail rate is underreported. And you can read studies, make sure you see who funded those studies. At the end of the day, even if the studies are favorable for these services, you're letting a third party kind of decide your fate in a way in terms of having children. With freezing anything, the thawing process will very often destroy like 50% of whatever you're thawing. After that, you don't know if they're genetically good. And then even if they are, you implant them and you might be too old to even carry the pregnancy. And then you have to make decisions like, do I keep implanting them? Also, this is very expensive and hormonal. There's a lot of hormonal strain because you have to take hormones to do all this stuff. Yeah, and then we get into the issue of surrogacy, which is, human trafficking. Anyways, that's also another video. I will stay on topic. I wish that society was structured differently. I wish that people could get married in their 20s and have kids and be supported by their families during that process, because a lot of men don't make very much income in their 20s. And then once the man does make more income, then the role should flip, and he should support his elder parents at that point. So once he's in his mid 30s, but then all his kids are getting to the age of 10, and the woman can actually go back to work if she would like to, or if she would need to. And that structure of society makes a lot more sense considering our genetics and fertility and the reality of our biological selves. But unfortunately, that's not how it is. I also want to touch on why I think a lot of women wait so long, even women who want to have kids. There's a specific demographic that waits a long time, and it's highly educated women, and A lot of them are actually very intelligent. Some of them are even on the autism spectrum. And these women tend to really wait a long time. And I think maybe part of it is simply they've made good decisions, good, measured, appropriate decisions their whole life. They had control over their life. Everything they did was oriented towards a goal that they achieved. And that is the personality type they are. That is how their mind works. They also might be high anxiety and high negative feelings, and doing anything that isn't structured or out of their control is like incredibly daunting and scary and anxiety inducing to them. So I think a lot of women wait a really long time because just out of fear. Pregnancy, fertility, having a baby, birth, having kids, it is not a structured process. And maybe to them, doing IVF is almost like, in their mind, it's the more ideal way of getting pregnant because it's structured and like an exact science. It actually isn't. It's a subpar way of getting pregnant, has a very high fail rate and loads of unintended side effects that the industry doesn't even like talking about. But in their mind, because of the way their brain is structured and the way they've lived their whole life, they want some sort of precise outcome to a precise action. But the feminine and pregnancy and birth, it's just not like that. It's chaotic. It's the chaotic feminine. And you have to let go. You have to let nature take its course. And that's how it works. And that's the beauty in it. And that's really hard for a lot of women who just don't think that way. And as a species in general, as human beings, we're so disconnected from our nature to begin with. So we also we all kind of start with that mindset maybe. That's kind of how we're raised and how we participate in society to begin with. So they wait a long time, and it's like literally from fear, not wanting to take a risk maybe. And then it's too late for a lot of them, and it's heartbreaking. And I'm making this video because if you're in your 30s and you are of that mindset, think very carefully about what you're risking. Because it is a risk. It's a huge risk, even if you take all the perceived precautions. It breaks my heart for my friends. I have a few friends who are struggling with infertility, ones that already have kids and ones that don't have kids yet. And it is, some of them just never would have thought that after 30, after 35, they would have had trouble, but they do. Having kids is hard, but so is anything worthwhile. If you're doing anything with a payoff, it's going to be hard work. That includes kids. It's not different. It's also beautiful and wonderful. And I don't know. I'm not going to be able to kind of frame it in any way that a person can understand who doesn't have kids. It's just something you have to do for yourself and find out. It's also never the right time. It's always a bad time to have a kid. But I will say, and listen to my phrasing carefully, you can have kids early, but you can't have kids too late. Literally.